Hi everyone, I'm here with a good friend, Chris McCabe. We've known each other for I think quite a while by now. Still from my days as being a seller and now being a service provider. So I want to have a good conversation today to get whoever sees this video, like my customers and people like that want to learn more about Chris and more what he does. I know you do great work. You save heart attacks, I would say. So I'll give
Whenever
you
I
the plan.
can, whenever possible.
I'll give you the space to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Chris McCabe of E-commerce Chris. I formed E-commerce Chris when I left Amazon, where I had worked on the seller performance teams for several years. Now I've been consulting for many years at this point. Like you said, back to your years when you were selling, and before that, even working with account suspensions, ASIN takedowns or product listing suspensions, deal with brand registry issues, basically troubleshooting urgent situations, emergencies, and helping people with the appeals process, or in the case of abuse or attacks from competitors, abuse reporting teams. Unfortunately, over the years, we've had to offer more and more services for problem solving. You would think that over 6, 7, 8 years, maybe there would be fewer problems, but there's always something new and the old ones are still kind of kicking around. And yeah, most of us are ex-Amazon people that I worked with in Amazon, or people who are compliance experts and brand registry experts and listing experts like Liam McHugh.
Got it. Super cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what are some, and like Amazon, I would say not secrets, but what's the best tactics for a seller to protect their account from getting restricted or suspended? Like, how could someone do it the right way that they shouldn't fall into such a situation?
Yeah, and this is something you guys talk about with your business a lot. Upfront due diligence, which means something a little bit different with account health. We still see people making avoidable mistakes that are costing them a lot of money. And it means that when they're listing product, maybe they added some keywords they shouldn't have, and they got flagged for making false claims, or maybe violated someone's intellectual property, or simply violated Amazon's listing guidelines, not something legal in nature, but like a policy violation. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world that you lose your whole account. But if you're doing lots of mistakes, lots of the time like that, it could mean that your account health will be impacted, or it could mean that over time it'll build up into a problem that one particular policy violation doesn't create. But if they have to keep looking at your account, it's a problem because they don't want to see you, they don't want to hear you, right?
Right.
They want to take their commission and they want their buyers to be happy. They want you to get great feedback, great product reviews, great everything, good performance metrics. And unless they're talking to you from a business development perspective or a brand creation perspective, they don't really need to talk to you except about making more money with you, right? So some of the examples, occasionally people hire like maybe a listing optimization firm, or they work with an agency and they're not asking enough questions on the way in terms of, do you guys really know compliance? And do you have like a compliance team, or is it just one person who's, only trained to open seller support cases, for example, who's not trained on catalog problems? There's very specific types of listing suspensions and account suspensions. I think one thing sellers new and old kind of forget maybe is that suspension types might seem the same because your account is either down or it's not, but they are distinct and they need to be appealed in a distinct way. And I think when you're sort of blurring it all together, it makes it easy to sort of forget that there are steps you can be taking in advance to prevent policy teams from sniffing around. They're not looking for more work to do. They'd rather not have to write to you, not have to look at your listings, and not have to deal with you. So like if they start by being kind of annoyed that they have to look at your account, that's where problems begin.
Got it. Is there any way, I guess once it's too late, I mean, I know you do that for a living, but do you recommend, like, there's some suspensions where the seller should do it on their own, or you really need an expert to handle a suspension because you could really go down, take a wrong turn, and then you screwed up everything?
Depends on the complexity of the suspension. I mean, some of the listing violations, like for variation creation, some sellers just don't do those right, no matter how many times they try. So those are the types of things where they need a listing expert to dissect it and then help them with the appeal. If it's something that you've been suspended for in the past and you resolved it, I wouldn't begrudge anyone taking a stab at it, or maybe even two if they think they're getting closer to the target after the first attempt. But don't continue to send the same thing in or resubmit with minor tweaks. Don't send in templates. I know there's a lot of, like, we call them template mills, kind of copy and paste appeals services, Amazon operates on the garbage in, garbage out. If they think you sent them garbage, they're not going to give you the time of day. So it depends on what your strategy is for appealing and how you intend to appeal. If it's like dashing it off on a napkin type stuff, it's not going to be taken too seriously.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you share like any like success story? Like give me like maybe the craziest story I've had in suspension and getting it back up and running.
I mean, crazy, we see all manners of crazy. We see people getting attacked by competitors. The craziest stuff we see is the most alarming because it's a competitor trying to frame a seller the same way you'd see in a movie or, a mystery novel. Somebody's being framed for something they didn't do. So I think the last couple of years, the craziest thing we saw was a fake Facebook page created for the brand by a competitor. Free gifts, leave us a 5-star review, stuff like that. This doesn't happen as much anymore. Sometimes they fake that you have a product insert that's a complete violation of review solicitation policies, but it's something they Photoshop. It's not like, it looks kind of like your insert, but they added a bunch of terms and things that are just complete violations of policy. And if there's a bin check and they actually look at one insert against the other, maybe they figure it out. But what if they do it kind of quickly, stuff like that, just attacking detail pages, accusing competitors of breaking the code of conduct policy. I think most sellers are really afraid of getting the code of conduct suspension now. So that seems to be the hot topic around, what can I make it look like my competitor's doing? So that stuff's pretty crazy. You can fix that. I mean, we've succeeded in reversing those suspensions and disputing them as mistakes every single time. We don't have anyone that we haven't disproven on those cases. So that's good news. But, you lose money. Your competitor knows you're going to lose some sales rank too, not just the sales. You lose sales rank 7, 8, 9 days. And unfortunately, we did work with some sellers who didn't show us this stuff. They don't have to hire us right away. But I mean, anyone who works with you guys in your firm, at least show us, like before you decide to do anything, so I can give you some quick advice. I'm always happy to do that. They appealed it through Seller Central. They sent in a bunch of wacky stuff maybe. And like a week and a half goes by. I mean, for some of our clients, 10 days is a lot of money. 7 days is a lot of money. And not only did they lose the money, they burned through a few appeals to the point where maybe the next appeal won't be read as quickly or as seriously. That's perhaps the biggest problem, is they kind of put you on the back burner at that point, and nobody wants to live on the back burner.
100%, especially on Amazon.
Amazon's a front burner all the time place. So those are the unfortunate things. There aren't a lot of people out there that have the stomach for abuse reporting. So we're kind of the only service doing that in a large scale, meaningful way, beyond just kind of, opening support cases or sending an email into a seller performance queue doesn't really do anything. When you're under attack, it's more nuanced, more sophisticated, and that's when you probably want to get professional expert eyes on it sooner than later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So on a different topic, we're really excited. I think, what is it, May 1st, May 2nd?
Yeah, May 1st and 2nd. You want to circle those on your calendar.
Exactly. So yeah, we're really excited to be part of this.
Yep.
Chris
New York
is
City.
hosting an event in New York City. We're really excited. It's going to be a 1-day like exhibit style event, and then the other day, the second day, would be more mastermind style event, where I'm super excited to be part of. And do you have any special offer you want to give to the viewers? It could be about your services. It could be for Seller Velocity. Or both.
I mean, two things. Any of your clients that run into these problems or have questions, or they're just afraid they're about to lose an ASIN, or, God forbid, lose the whole account, just shoot me an email directly. And if I don't take a look at it, then one of my colleagues that spent several years at Amazon will look at it and give you a quick opinion on first 2-3 things you need to do before you even appeal. Typically, there's a little bit of a conversation or an email back and forth on things to do before you put pen to paper, before you decide what to write and when to send it. That's number one. Number two, if your clients have emergency work, we typically do an additional charge for priority rate versus standard rate, which is $1,000 value. We're happy to, between now and the Seller Velocity Conference, waive the priority fee for any of your clients. For you guys, because obviously you've been good supporters, friends in the community of sellers over the years. We've known you for quite a long time. And also, we understand that not everyone has the resources to cover the priority fee, and we're happy to charge the standard rate, but begin within the priority timeline, which sometimes that means at night, sometimes it means over a weekend. I don't need to tell your your audience that I'm already doing nights and weekends anyway from now till the conference. So I'll be
Yeah,
around.
I'm sure about that.
So I'll be around. Yeah, I'll be around for the next 6-7 weeks, pretty much 7 days a week. And then, right after our conference in May, people will be focused on Prime Day. It's always something with
Always.
coming, and after Prime Day, everyone's focused on Q4 right away.
Right.
So I think it's an exciting time. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. You hear a lot about the fee structure and there's a lot of friction, but you know what? There always will be. I think sellers are much better at kind of preparing for a rainy day now than they were like 4 or 5 years ago. And people do look around that curve or around the corner at things that could be a threat or a problem, or maybe they plan due diligence a little bit more in advance now. Maybe you're seeing that yourself with what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. It's like first quarter of the year, it's all about due diligence, like seeing what you did wrong last year, what could I fix, what could I do better,
Yeah.
what could I change. And then second quarter is when you start placing your POs, ordering stuff, preparing for Prime Day. Third quarter is all about preparing for Q4, and then it's Q4. So it's basically, this is what I've seen.
Yeah.
It's the last 2 years where I've really seen sellers really making sure that they know what they're doing. They're not over ordering, they're not under ordering, they're not overspending on advertising, whatever things that they need to take care of. But it's just, I've seen it myself. It's like this whole thing about just like, just buying stuff and selling, and just like Amazon made sure with all their policy changes and all their new fees and all structures, like this is a 9 to 5 business, meaning to say like this is a full-time job.
Oh yeah.
This is not something you could do as a side hustle and just make some extra money. You really got to be focused on what you're doing. So that's how I've seen it as well.
And there's good news and bad news. Obviously, working 7 days a week is not fantastic or ideal. But as time has gone on, because Amazon pushes people for compliance, paperwork, and documentation much more now than they used to, I think sellers realize they have to have those ducks in a row before anyone asks you for anything. Don't start scrambling once they ask. And then also just ASIN takedowns, the number of reasons and the number of bot or automated flags are going up. And some of these ASINs are really, top seller losing 10,000 or 20,000 a day, so over a weekend they could be out $30,000, $20,000 from one of their best-selling products. So it's not great that people are working 6-7 days a week, but I guess since I was already doing that, now I feel like I've got some company on the weekends. So it's kind of like good for me. I'm not completely alone. I got some company, but it's not the right kind. I mean, it's like, I think if you prepare and prevent in advance, you can head these things off. I mean, you can never prevent everything, right?
Right.
But you can minimize the damage or the hurt if you have everything ready to go and you diagnose or interpret what Amazon wants from you very quickly. That's kind of the only other tip I can think of right now in terms of like top mistakes people make in the appeals process. Some people like have a plan of action from the last time they appealed, but Amazon's not even asking you for a POA. So if you send it in, you're just creating confusion. And also it might be a situation where you're disputing it, right? Like Amazon makes a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And sometimes you start with, no, you made a mistake. You're wrong. This is an error by Amazon. And that's the appeal. There's no plan of action. You're just saying, look at it again, review it again. You flagged us, but this is a bot or an automation error. And they will, I mean, not most of the time, but at least some of the time, they will pop your listing back up and say, yeah, you're right, we made a mistake. But you don't send a plan of action, which essentially admits that you screwed something up.
Exactly.
Starting off on the wrong foot. And that's why you hear a lot of people kind of going in circles and no one's responding and we can't figure out what's going on, and 6 days pass or whatnot. They probably sent in 1 or 2 appeals at the very beginning that did not help solve it. So
right. Well, okay. That was a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to explain what you do and how you can help sellers. And everyone, remember, Seller Velocity, May 1st, May 2nd. I'm looking forward to be there and looking forward to seeing you, Chris, as well.
yeah, I'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.